are probably asleep or on your way to school, but I decided to go live this morning early to talk about citations because I have a very big day today and I won't have time to go live later. So we are doing our citations live session to go with write an A+ resume with me. I just woke up and decided to turn my mic on and everything. And we're going to recap what we did yesterday briefly, but then I'm going to get right into citations. And I'm hoping that this video will be much shorter than yesterday's video. Yesterday's video went a little bit long. So yesterday, we basically put in all of the content into our essay. Now, if you missed part 1 and 2, link in the description to grab those. I would watch those first, but you can also just watch this video as a one-off for citations. Now, your teacher may tell you, I want you to have citations in your essay. I want you to have one primary source. I want you to have one secondary source, right? And that might be something that you've never heard before. And when your teacher is asking you to do this, this is because if we're talking about the French Revolution and the Occupy Wall Street movement, right, which are the two topics that I wanted to write about for my essay that we went over in part 1 and 2. When I write information about that, those are not original thoughts. I did not just come up with those on my own. I woke up this morning and I had all these original thoughts about the French Revolution. Those ideas, even if I summarize them in my own words, are from somebody else's work. They're either from my textbook that I read in class, they're from a video that I saw online, they're from a research paper I found online. They are not my original thoughts. In fact, I would argue that there are no original thoughts because somewhere, somehow, someone has written a paper pretty much about anything and everything we could possibly ever watch or see or learn or anything. There are no original thoughts. So the reason why your teacher wants you to have a look and see which citations you're going to be using is because you must cite where you got this information, even if you summarize it in your own words, because it's not your original thought. All right. So let's hop over to my paper so I can just show you this in real time really quickly. Let me go here. All right. So this is the finished version of my paper. We're not here yet, but I want to talk about these citations inside of here. This paper is MLA. And let me go and bring in my this paper is APA. And then I have another one that's MLA. So I'm going to show you both ways. If you are someone who is in an English class, you will probably have to use MLA citations. And if you are in a social studies class, you will use APA. That doesn't really matter right now. I want to talk about a couple of things. So you might see when you're reading in your textbook or when you're writing your paper, you might see these little citations here. They are in parentheses. They typically have the author's last name. Some have the date. If it's MLA, they just have the author's name here. You can see right here. And at the end of your paper, you have something like a references page, or if it's MLA, a Works Cited page. Notice they're very similar. We are listing all of the authors that we used in our paper to come up with the information that is in our paper. All right. The same with the references page. These are all of the people, all of the references out there that ChatGPT helped me get that I'm using in my paper here. Now, anything that's listed here on my reference page must be inside of my paper. Notice I have this author here, and that is this author here. I need Gitlin 2017, Gitlin 2017. And then I have National Assembly of France and Sanders. Let's see if I have those in here. National Assembly of France and Sanders here. Anything that's in the Works Cited page or the references page must be in the body, and everything that is in the body must be in the reference page. It will be in two places. You basically, as you're talking, like this right here is not an original thought. I summarized it from this source right here. Okay. So that's called an in-text citation. And this author here, now I need to tell you what the source is. I basically told you in text, hey, However, the revolution had a significant limitations. I am summarizing what this author said here as some information in my paper. This is the author. And here is the full publication if you'd like to go check it out yourself. All right. Now, if I'm your teacher, I'm having a look at your reference page here. I'm having a look to see what kind of references you're using. Now, if you are brand new to this, you might be allowed to use some web pages and things like that. But if you're a college student, I want to see some scholarly research in your references. Like, for example, this is a paper written by 3 authors. Let's see, 4 authors. And it's called The Consequences of Radical Reform. Actually, this should be italicized. And this is from a paper here. And I can grab it. I can go have a look at it if I'm your teacher and see what it is. This is another paper written by Gitlin. And you can see that it comes from here. These are primary sources. We talked about those. And those are online and we can find those speeches. Okay. So basically the reference page is like, hey, professor, teacher, these are all of the things I used in my paper. And you will see me reference them as I summarize some of their ideas inside my paragraph. This is called an in-text citation because it's inside the text. And this is called your reference page or your list of references. When we're talking about MLA, it's the same thing. You have your author here, no date. APA, you put the date. MLA, you do not. And then you have the list of authors here, and it's called a Works Cited page, but they function identically. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, how do we sort of work these citations inside of our papers? Okay. So let's go back to APA. I'm much more comfortable with APA than I am MLA because I've been writing papers in APA for the last 20 years, but it's fine. MLA is the same thing. Let's talk about this really quickly. So I asked ChatGPT to help me write this paragraph, which is fine. And I even revised it several times. If you go back to part 2, you will see that it came up with, and I'll even put it here. This is the first body paragraph it gave me here. All right. And I asked it for a primary source. Now let's recap what a primary source is. A primary source is straight from the person who lived the experience. So it's a speech straight from the person's mouth. It could be a photograph. It could be an interview with a person who was actually there during the French Revolution, which would be impossible today because this was back in the 1700s. But it could be a transcript from an actual firsthand account. It could be a speech. It has to be straight from the person who experienced it. That's called a primary source. A secondary source, which is one that you will see here, William Doyle in 2001. Obviously, it's secondary because it was written in 2001 and the French Revolution happened in 1789. This is a secondhand account, meaning William Doyle went out and researched all about the French Revolution and then wrote a book about it. That book is a secondary source. Your textbook is a secondary source. It's not written straight from the person who experienced the French Revolution, obviously, because we're in the 21st century right now. It is a compile of information or compiled information that a person got after doing all the research. That's a secondary source. And your teacher for this assignment wanted one primary and one secondary, and we have that here. We have the National Assembly of France. It was a speech, Declaration of the Rights of the Citizen. We got that here. And then a secondary source. And we said we were going to do one primary and one secondary source inside of our papers, which we did. Okay. So now let's talk about how we decided on our primary and secondary sources. When I went in and looked at the primary and secondary sources that ChatGPT gave me, I was happy with this one. This one is actually a primary source that when I looked it up, it did have a speech. I had ChatGPT summarize the speech for me, and it did a good job during doing that. So I kept that primary source for this paragraph. But when I looked at this source here, this secondary source that ChatGPT gave me, I noticed that it was a book. Let's scroll down to those sources. I asked ChatGPT to give this to me in APA and MLA formatting. You can see I have my primary source here, APA, MLA. I had to do it in 2 because I wanted to teach you both APA and MLA formatting. When I looked at Doyle, I saw that this was actually a book. And that's problematic for me. Why? Because if my teacher looks at my lists of references at the end of my paper and she sees a book, and you can see here Oxford University Press and University of California Press, that indicates that these are books. So my teacher might ask me, did you go out and read these books? Did you check these books out at the library and read them? Because the implication is if you put them in your paper here, it means you had access to them. You read part of the book and you pulled out a quote from that book and put it into your paper, or you summarized information from that book and put it in your paper. And did you do that here? No, you did not. ChatGPT went out and got you some information. This is why you have to check. ChatGPT went out and got you this information and stuck a book in here that's sort of related to it. That does not work. And if your teacher is watching you, and she probably is, she's going to go, oh, really cool. Yeah, show me that book. Do you have it? Did you check it out? No, you did not. And you do not have plans to check it out either. Let's be honest, okay? So I asked ChatGPT to switch out these two books, one for William Doyle, and the other one here was for Nathan Schneider. Both of these were books. So I asked ChatGPT, and let me scroll down. It's going to be a lot more here. It's way down here. I asked ChatGPT, here it is, to change out. Doyle 2011 is a book. Can you give me a different source that is a scholarly article online that I can access? And it did. It gave me this APA citation. When I went in there, there were some consequences of radical reform for the French Revolution. Remember, we had to talk about the wins and loses of these movements. And the same thing I asked for it. Let's go here, down here for the Occupy Wall Street. Said the same thing. Can you do the same? Schneider is a book. I need an article. And it went in and found me a really good article that I could then click on and check to see, and even have ChatGPT summarize it, which I did. I asked ChatGPT, once it gave me this article by Acemoglu and all them, I asked ChatGPT to summarize it for me. And I got some information there and worked it into my paper. Okay. So we switched out the books for the actual articles online that I could access. Because I'm telling you, you don't want books in there because your teacher's going to know you didn't read the book. Come on, guys. All right. So, and then it gave me my citations here. We'll talk about this in a second. Now, once I got that and worked it into my essay with the help of ChatGPT, this is my final paragraph. Okay. So I have the little definition of what happened in the French Revolution. I summarized it, and then I started to add some citations. So here it is. The Declaration of the Rights of Man of the Citizen, 1789, captures this spirit. And then I did a little quote from there. Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. And then I cited it here. Okay. Here's how you cite information. This one was a little direct quote from, or a small direct quote from the actual primary source. So I put that in quotes, and then I put the citation at the end. This one here is a summarization of what this author said. France soon came under authoritarian rule of Napoleon, and even up here. However, the revolution also had significant limitations. While the French Revolution abolished feudal privileges and introduced equality before the law, it did not immediately lead to true democracy. In fact, France soon came under blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I didn't come up with that on my own. This author here, Acemoglu et al. Did. Okay. Now, Acemoglu was not the only author on this paper. Let's scroll down. I'm just going to call this author Ace because this is a weird name. Ace, Cantoni, Johnson, and Robertson wrote this. But this is a very long citation. Normally, when we cite an APA, we use the author's last name, comma, date. So let's just pretend that this was written by me. This last little one you took from Jasper. 2025. Let's just pretend I wrote an article about the French Revolution, which I did not, but let's pretend I did. Jasper, and let's say I'm the only author on it. Jasper is the author, comma, date. That's APA. If it were MLA, we would just do, let's go back up here. We would just do Jasper there. Okay, but APA requires the date. If it were a direct quote, I would also put in the page number here for MLA, but I don't like using direct quotes. I would stay away from direct quotes. We did it here because it was from a speech, but summarize everything. Don't put direct quotes from like a paper. Summarize what they're saying here, okay? So let's pretend that Jasper 2025 did this. Basically, what I'm saying is, here's a little summary of what Jasper said about this. I didn't say it. Jasper did in 2025. And then at the end here, I would have Jasper. Let's pretend. Let's put it in here. JK. Yeah, it would go here. Let's pretend this is Jasper K 2025. And let's pretend this is a fake article. Let's just pretend this is my article here, okay? I wrote this one, all right? So you would see here that I have Jasper said this, okay? Now, when we say Ace et al., we're saying Ace and all the other authors on this article. That's what et al. Means. Notice we have the author, comma, date here. Just like I said, Jasper, comma, date. But for Jasper, there's only one author. If you have two or more authors, we don't want to have to write all of this. Ace, Cantoni, Johnson, Robinson, 2011. You can just say Ace, et al., there's a period after that, comma, and then the date. You can cite in text that way. You do not have to list them all. It used to be you'd have to list them all at least once, and then if you quoted them again, you could shorten it. But now with the new APA style guide, you can just put the last name and et al., comma, and the date here. What I'm saying here is this is a summary of what Ace said. It was Ace and all these other people. If I go down here, it'll list all these other people, and I know where this information came from, okay? Now let's have a look at Gitlin here. You can see that we have, without leaders, formal goals or clear strategy, Occupy could not turn its public support into a specific political legal reforms. I didn't say that. Gitlin did. And it's not a direct quote. We summarized it with the help of ChatGPT. And I have the last name. Oh, no comma here. We got to make sure we have a comma, 2017. Now, another way I could cite this, and let me just zoom in here so you can see this. You can cite at the end of what you said. So we have this little area here, and we cited what Gitlin said. I could say, however, we could say this. According to Gitlin, 2017, here's another way we can do it. According to Gitlin, this is the author. What made the movement popular, its openness, lack of hierarchy, was also its greatest weakness when it came to policy change. Without leaders, formal goals, blah, blah, blah. But you can also cite at the beginning. That should be 2017, sorry. You can say, according to this author, and then you basically say in 2017, you put that in parentheses. You can do that, or you can do this. However, you can state what's going on here, and you can just, Gitlin, put it all at the end. It's up to you. Both are correct in APA. The same thing with MLA. Let's go to Gitlin. Okay, you can see I put Gitlin at the end here. However, you could put, according to Gitlin, what made the movement, and then we would get rid of this at the end because we already cited it at the beginning. Okay, so you could do that as well. I'm going to keep it at the end just because it keeps it all nice, but there are different ways to cite. You know, you can cite at the beginning of the sentence when you say, according to Ace Moglu, France soon came under authoritarian rule, but you have to have the date with it if it's APA formatting. Those are the differences. MLA, you just need the author's name, last name. APA, it's name and date. When it comes to the references pages, you can see that we have last name, first initial, last name, first initial, last name, first initial, last name, first initial, and then the date. Then the title, and then if it's retrieved from somewhere online. You can actually have ChatGPT write your references for you. Let me show you how to do that very quickly. So you can see I asked for it. I said, let's go up here. The Doyle book, can you give me a different source that is scholarly and put it into APA? And it did it here. Notice we have last name, first initial, last name, first initial. That's APA. And then I asked for MLA. Notice that MLA, you don't have to list all the authors with MLA. They use quotes around the title. For APA, they use italics, and they don't use quotes. And it's just a different format, but it doesn't matter because you have this awesome tool where you can say, can you put this in APA for me? Can you put this in MLA for me? And it'll do that for you. And here are the in-text citations. You can see for APA, we have the date included, and for MLA, we don't. And again, this is Ace Moglu and all the other authors on the paper. That's what that means, okay? And that's really, really important. So that's how you cite. But notice that I had to really check ChatGPT's use of the citations. If I just went with the first paragraph that ChatGPT gave me, I'm getting a bogus citation and I don't have access to it. And it's not a very good paper. And your professor's going to know. I would know right away that that's a book. So through all of this rewording and revising, I came up with a much better paper. You can see here, I asked for a better primary source and it gave me Bernie Sanders. And it gave me some quotes from Bernie Sanders from the Occupy Wall Street that I incorporated in my paper because they had originally given me a photograph. And it gave me my citations for APA and MLA, and those all went at the end of my paper. And then it gave me a revised paragraph here, and that's what I used. And then I asked it to revise the Doyle quote. I did not want that. It was a book. It revised it, gave me a new summary of what's in that, which is helpful because then I don't have to go read the whole article. And then I incorporated that into my paper, and I had a better source here. So let's go back to my paper. You can see no books. These are all articles. And then I have these two primary sources here, the speech from the National Assembly of France and the speech from Sanders. So what do I have here? I'm going to take out the Jasper because this was fake. What do I have here? I have two secondary sources and two primary sources. It just happens to go in that order because this is going to be an alphabetical order. All right. Now let me show you how you get this nice. I'm going to move some things around here so it's not in alpha order. I'm going to move this to the end of here. Let's pretend you've collected all of your stuff and you've just sort of put it into your paper. And you are like, oh gosh, I have to format this reference page now. Let's even say you're not even in double spaced. Let's go here. Paragraph. Let's go. You just wrote it. You copied and pasted it in from where you were writing it. And so what you want to do now is you want to make sure that you are working through here and making sure everything is in its alphabetical order and it has its hanging indent. Okay. That's really important. So the first thing I want to do is put this in alphabetical order. All I have to do is highlight it, go up to this A to Z button up here, as you can see, and paragraphs ascending. Ascending means it's going to go from A to Z. All right. And we hit OK. And look, it put it all in alphabetical order for me. All right, great. Now the next thing I need is a hanging indent. Well, the hanging indent, we go to Format Paragraph. You can also right click for a shortcut, Paragraph here. And under Indentation and Special, you're going to go Hanging. Oh, now it's got all my hanging indents. Now for each one, I have the author kind of sticking out for each one, but I need it double spaced. Okay, no problem. Right click, Paragraph, go to Single, hit double, boom. Now all your references on your reference page are all spaced out properly, hanging indent, listed. Everything that's listed in here that I used is in my references page or on my references page, and everything in my reference page is in my paragraphs here. The same for MLA. It's just worked up a little bit different. We've got the authors, hanging indent, ABC order, alphabetical order. Instead of references, it says Works Cited. That's what MLA does. That's just the way it is. Double spaced paper here. You can see I have my citations, National Assembly of France, ACE et al. That's not in, there we go. ACE et al. Here. What do we have? ACE et al. I think it should just be the last initial. I'm going to have to check really quick. Gilton Todd. Actually, no, you're right. It's probably that. National Assembly of France, Bernie Sanders. This is the way it is for Works Cited. Everything in my Works Cited page is in my, you can see here, Gitlin, we've got Sanders, we've got the French National Assembly of France, and we have ACE et al. Everything that's in my paragraphs is in my Works Cited page, okay? And I double checked with ChatGPT. Let's go back here, and you can see this is MLA. This went into my citation in my Works Cited, and then the in text is what goes inside the text. And I cited that after revising and paraphrasing what they said. So even though I used ChatGPT, I still had to go back and finagle my references to make sure they were correct. It still took me a lot less time than it normally takes. Finding these references used to take hours and hours. You used to have to comb through and read all of the studies. With ChatGPT, it'll give you a study, and you can even go out and make sure that study exists and then ask ChatGPT to summarize it for you so you can write a quick summary or pull out a quote or pull out some information and put it into your paper. All right. So that is how you do these references. Make sure you watch this video if you have any questions, and I will do more. If you want to know more about references, more about how to use it, let me know, and I will make another video on it. But these are the basics for how you use APA and MLA. Remember, there are no original thoughts anymore. Somebody has written a paper about it, and you need to make sure that when you're writing a paper that you give credit to where you got this information. Copying and pasting from ChatGPT is not going to do it. There's a little bit of copy and paste from ChatGPT, but we have to revise, make sure our sources are sound, and make sure we're summarizing what we are looking at, okay? Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I'll film more if you need more information, all right? Have a great day. Bye.